All right, very well. So I am recording as it goes. All right, so welcome everybody to the class. I decided to do this class because we have so many new agents and they're building their pipeline by working on these on leases. And for the most part, the first thing you do when you go in, you're going into your Facebook marketplace and posting all these properties. Now you get a lead and you got to put an offer in and you're scrambling to figure out what to do next. Well, this is the next step, putting the offer in. So when you're working with a tenant, the first thing you're going to do once you find a property, a suitable property, and you're going to put an offer in. That's called a contract to lease. Usually 99.9% of the times, the landlord's agent is going to be preparing the lease. So all you have to do is come to an agreement on the contract to lease, and the lease will be prepared by the landlord's agent. So I'm going to teach a class, I think it's on the 17th, on how to prepare the lease for those that are already listing properties and want to know how to prepare the lease. But if you're a new agent, more than likely, you're just sending contract to leases and you're going to get the lease back. So this should be helping you to get you rolling.
Now I have a question, Rick. I'm sorry to interrupt. This contract to lease is also for to buy a home, or it's just for rental?
Oh, this is just for rental. Contract to lease is just for rental. Okay. Contract to lease is a formality done to make sure that you've come to an agreement, because once you put the lease together, it's binding. You're done. The lease is done. And if they don't live it out, there would be a breach. So you do the contract to lease because it's a short form to get an agreement. Sort of like in commercial where you use an LOI, and this is the LOI for the lease. So let's start off with line number one.
Well, 1 second, Rick. If you guys do not have a contract to lease open, you can just go to our lircloud.com. Under popular forms, there's a CTL sample. Just follow along. That's the contract to lease, okay? Just in case someone wrote on the chat, where can she find it? That's where you can find it. lircloud.com, under popular forms, CTL sample. Go ahead, sorry.
All right, very well. So on the very first line on this contract to lease, is going to say parties. That's number one. The parties are the landlord, which is the prospective lender that owns the house, and the tenant. This information for the landlord can be very easily found either in public records for miami-dade.gov for Miami-Dade, or the Broward County property appraisers for Broward County, whereby you'd go in there and do a property search and look up who owns the property by address, and there it would provide you the information. But if you can also, off of MLS, look it up on IMAP or on any one of the tax sheets up top that give you additional information, should give you the property owner's name. Okay. I usually do go to the county though, because I go straight to the county and make sure I got the latest information. Prospective tenant, I would encourage you to use your client's legal name. Make sure that you take it off of their driver's license. You have a copy of the driver's license so that you have everything written in there exactly as it is. Following that, you're going to put that the lease agreement is going to be executed no later than, and I usually want 3 days from and we'll get into why I do that. So if my contract to lease is executed today on what's today, the 7th, I want a lease no later than the 10th. 3 days is what I want. I want to put it under contract, get the lease done, because once you have a lease done, it's now considered earned commission. Okay. If they don't carry out the rest of it, they're pretty much in breach at that point. So we'll get a little deeper into that as we get a little further on this.
Hey, Rick, I just want to notate, I put the sample file for everybody in the chat room. If somebody wants to pull it up there, they can get the PDF file and go along.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Mo. I appreciate that. All right, so the lease will include the terms set forth in paragraph 312 of this contract and other mutually agreeable terms. And landlord, you're going to click there, check off landlord will prepare the lease. Okay, that's usually the way it is. Landlord's going to prepare the lease. Now, this next one, I want you to follow me very closely because that's deposit. When you're going to do a rental, you want to take a deposit. You want to make sure your client is for real and that they're ready to move forward, and they're going to give you a deposit. So what usually on rentals, they usually pay you half a month, or in some cases, they'll pay you 5%. When you see 5%, that's 5% of the annual rent. So if the annual rent was $12,000, your commission is 5% of $12,000. If it says half a month that, and it's renting for $2,000 a month, then you know your commission is going to be $1,000. Now, the way I do it, and the reason why I put 3 days for the lease is because what I put here is that I collect, let's say the rent that we're offering is $2,000. So my commission is going to be $1,000. I'll put on there that the deposit that I'm collecting is $1,000. And I put the deposit holder there as Lifestyle International Realty. Now, granted, now listen carefully. I'm only collecting the $1,000 because that's my earned commission going to be once the lease is signed. But the trick to being able to do this is that you have to have that lease signed with 3 days, because you can't keep a deposit for more than 3 days. But if your lease is done within 3 days, that now becomes earned commission. So that $1,000 can be deposited directly into the brokerage commission account. Okay. And then all you have to do is wait till the lease, till you turn over keys to fill out your form to process your commission. What many agents do is, and if you're going to go past the 3 days, then many agents, what they do is they collect 1 month deposit, $2,000. They'll go to New World Title. They'll deposit that $2,000 in New World Title. The deposit holder in that case would be New World Title. And when you're ready to turn over the property, 72 hours before, you have to send a form to New World Title. So New World Title can prepare the commission check for the other brokerage, the commission check for Lifestyle. So you'll be ready to turn those checks over when you turn over the property, when your client's going to receive the property. I try eliminating that step of going back and forth to the title company, but I don't want to confuse anybody. The reason I do that is because I hold them to preparing that lease within 3 days. So now that's no longer an escrow deposit, it's earned commission, and I can literally deposit that money into the brokerage account. So if you do it right, you don't have to run back and forth. You can take your commission only on that as a deposit, and then have that money, have the lease done, and you could deposit it right into the brokerage account. You can't collect your commission until the property's turned over to the client on the day of the move-in. So on the day of the move-in, if you've only collected your commission amount, the tenant is going to bring the other $1,000 that the other brokerage would be making as commission made out to, let's say, Kai's. And your tenant will bring a money order. And then it would bring the balance of the move-in money made out to the landlord's name. Is everybody following me on that? If you're not, please tell me, because this is a very important part of this. Okay, so everybody's got that. Fantastic. All right, so then we'll move on to the next one, which will be the property address. Make sure that you check on there whether the property will be furnished or unfurnished. Okay. The lease date is the date your lease will begin. Now, remember, if you need association approval, always keep in mind how long the association may take. Legally, most associations, they can take up to 30 days. So be realistic when you're putting an offer where there's a condo application. If you're looking now 4/7, and you want your client to move in 5/1, you could put 5/1 there, but just know that the lease might have to be changed later on or revised, because the approval can take up to 30 days when there's an association. So if your lease date begins on 5/1, your end date will be on 4/30. It's always the day before. Okay. That would make the full year. On number 5, when you're filling out this form, it through the software of Form Simplicity, you don't have to put nothing on number 5, because automatically when you fill out on the bottom portion here where it says first month's rent plus applicable taxes, that's going to auto-populate and add all those sums up, and it will put it on number 5. So if your client's moving in on 5/1, first month's rent would be $2,000 due 5/1. Last month's rent would be $2,000 due 5/1. Security deposit would be $2,000 due 5/1. So automatically on money due before occupancy, you would see $6,000. Now, if there's a pet deposit or any other fee that's being collected there, you can obviously write it in or put the amount of pet deposit. But everything is due 5/1 because that's the day they have to turn over the money because they're moving in. Now, the next line you're going to see, it says the paragraph 2 deposit will be credited as follows. So let's say you collected $1,000 on paragraph 2, and you put on there that it was going to be held by Lifestyle International Realty. Then you would check off other, you would put $1,000, and you would specify there that it would be agent commission. That money is going to be applied to your commission. Okay. Now, in the event that you collected the full $2,000, then you would put agents, you'd make it plural, agents commission. Okay. Because now you're collecting the commission for both the Kai's brokerage and your commission. But in that event, that money would be held. If you're collecting anyone else's commission except yours, it needs to go into an escrow. Lifestyle doesn't have an escrow. We have a commission processing account, but not an escrow account. So in the event that you do collect the full month, then you have to make that check out to New World Title when you collect it, and it has to be deposited with the title agency. All right. The next line was going to be rent payments, rent payment taxes, and insurance. Just so you know, any lease that is more than 6 months, there's no taxes on it. Leases that are less than 6 months are vacation leases and they require taxes. But most of the leases you're going to be doing are going to be year leases. There's no taxes. So on that line, the rent payment with taxes would be the same amount. If it's $2,000 a month, you would put $2,000 there. Okay. And then tenant will also pay total taxes on the rent. You put 0, no tax, because it's more than a 6 months lease. Okay. Following that line, you would check off monthly and the day that the rent's going to be paid. In this case, we chose 5/1, but it's not uncommon if you want the rent to start on 5/15 or whatever day the lease starts, you could put the due date there when you fill out on number 5. If you wanted it to start on them to pay in the middle of the month, and then you would have put the 15th there. Pets, if they're permitted, make sure that you describe the pet that your tenant has. And if the tenant tells you I have if you're going into a community where they say that they only allow 20 pounds and under, make sure that the tenant knows that they may have to produce a letter from the veterinarian that certifies how much the pet weighs. That's a possibility. Okay, so this page gets initialed on the bottom by the prospective tenants and the prospective landlords. Okay, utilities. Sometimes in condominiums, the water's included, the basic cable, sewage is included. So in those cases, you would put those down there under number 9, the utilities that are covered by them. If they're renting a single family home, there's nothing covered. You just put none, and that's it. And usually on the leases for number 10, the landlord is responsible for maintenance and repairs. But what I do on those leases is to avoid a tenant calling you for all kinds of piddly stuff. I put except for any maintenance repairs under $100. Okay, so they're not calling you because the AC, they didn't change the filter. They've been living there for 10 months. And the AC is leaking, and they call me and tell me, hey, the AC is leaking. Say, hey, you're going to have to call somebody to flush the line out, or I'll send my guy out and bill you. Association approval. Where applicable, the lease will be contingent upon condominium cooperative homeowner association approval. Usually it's the tenant that pays a non-refundable application fee. Okay. I have yet to see a landlord want to pay that application fee, but paper will hold anything, and an agreement is what two people agree on. And so if the landlord's willing to pay for it, that's fantastic. Now, where it says that make application for association approval by, I usually put that within 5 days from the contract, because I need my client. I need them to know that my client's going to make association application right away, so we don't hold anything up. Okay. Number 12, where it says additional terms. Again, like I said, you can put anything that comes to mind. If there's an additional term where landlord agrees to paint unit prior to move-in, you could put it on there. Landlord agrees to repair front door. Landlord agree, whatever it is that you made an agreement, you can add it there if you wanted to. Okay. Very important. Number 14, service member status. If always make sure if your client is a service member, because he could very well be a service member and he's not active right now and they could activate him. And if they do, and you put it on here, then there's certain protections for service members. Okay. If they're deployed, they can't be evicted. And there are government programs that'll step in and cover the rent because they can't be evicted. They were sent off on with orders and they can't be evicted. And so basically from that point forward, it's self-explanatory. You can read the failure to perform and the background and credit preferences. I always encourage, if you're working rentals, before you even start your rental, you have the client provide you a credit report. You have them fill out a rental application so that you have all their information. You ask them if they're currently renting somewhere to get a letter from their landlord, a letter of reference, because that always helps. I ask for bank statements to show deposits and pay stubs. So to show income, okay? Because you're going to need all that stuff. So don't wait till you start showing the property, find something they like, and then lose it because they're gathering these documents. The moment you have that client, you want to know what you're dealing with, you're going to ask them to give you all that documentation so you can start working, okay? On number 16 on the bottom, prospective tenant agent's name, which would be, if you're filling out this contract to lease, it's going to be you and the brokerage name. And then on the bottom line, the prospective landlord's agent, which you'll know from MLS, and the brokerage name. This page is also initialed by both tenant and landlord on the bottom. And then on the last page is your signature pages. Make sure that you get the signatures, put the prospective tenant's address, email, and then that it's initialed on the bottom. It's really simple. It's not a complicated form. If anyone has any questions at this point, I'm going to ask that you ask me because I want to make sure everybody understood the deposit and everything else.
So under prospective tenant, we put our name, not the actual prospective tenant.
On what page? Where are you looking at? Number 16?
Yes.
It says prospective tenant's agent's
Okay.
name. You're the prospective tenant agent's name. Your name goes there.
Okay.
And on the
Then-
bottom, prospective tenant's brokerage name would be Lifestyle International Realty.
Okay. Then I wasn't looking at the right document. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
the
Anyone
one
else have
on-
any other questions?
The one on total brokerage doesn't say that.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't say, the contract to lease on total brokerage, which is where I've been doing them. It doesn't say prospective tenant
On what page? On page
on
number
page
2?
3. On page 3.
No, the prospective tenant agent's name is on page 2. And you should have the newest contract that came out for contract to lease on the bottom should say CL8 revision 321. If you're not using that one, then you need to go get the one out of Form Simplicity, which is the latest one.
Okay, yeah, the one on total brokerage is an older one then.
Yeah, so you need to always update, make sure you got the latest version of the document, okay? But that's
Okay.
self-explanatory because it tells you what goes there. Does anyone have any questions regarding the deposits?
I have a question about the form. May I ask?
Sure.
Thank you. So the person before me, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. We were told to go to the total brokerage and get the CTL sample. So that's the one I was following as well. Can you please tell me the number of the form at the bottom that you were looking at?
Yeah, the one that I'm using is CL8, and then it's the revised 321.
CL8.
CLA, yeah, it's the one on, if you go onto Form Simplicity from your matrix, you go into Form Simplicity, it's in there. Go into Form Simplicity and look under Florida documents, and look under contract to lease. That's the one that's in there.
You may have confused a few of them, but if anything, a sample would be in the cloud, the LIR cloud.
I'm
Wait.
looking in there, but I
This is-
don't see that
This is
form
not
at
the
all.
contract to lease. the one
Look at the chats. Look at the chat. Mo actually sent you guys a copy on the chat.
Yeah, I tried
Something
opening
attached.
it.
The
So
one
the
on
one-
LIR cloud, I'm sorry, is not the same form. It doesn't have the same numbers at the bottom.
It is. It's the same contract to lease. It's just a sample.
Yeah, and it might be a different, it might be a different version, but the very little has changed. You know, and that number 16, don't bog yourself down because it says prospective tenants, agent's name. So it's, I mean, you can read it and figure out what goes there. You're the prospective tenant's agent, and your name goes there. It's pretty simple on that, in that sense.
So
you have
what, okay, Rick, what
Leave
you
it.
have been going through is the contract to lease, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
So
If you
the,
have-
one- the one you said that you are going to teach next class is which one?
I'm going to be teaching the actual lease agreement, how to prepare the lease agreement once you have a contract to lease signed.
Okay.
Which,
thank you.
yeah, it's going to help those that have become listing agents and now they're representing the landlord. But most of the new agents don't have any listings. They're working with tenants that are looking for property. So this right now would be the most important document to them because they need to understand how to fill it out, feel confident filling it out, so they can start building their pipeline by working with tenants.
Mhm. Can you
Okay.
explain the deposit again? Like who
Yes,
gets
my
what? Just
pleasure. I have no problem. I want to
please.
make sure you understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have two options. We're
Okay.
using a format. We're assuming that we found a property for our client. And in that property, it says that they're paying half a month commission. And the rent that we're offering is $2,000 a month, which
Okay.
would mean that I would be making $1,000 as the tenant's agent.
Okay.
So I would put $1,000 deposit on line 2, and I would put Lifestyle International Realty as the deposit holder. On number 1, I would put that the lease needs to be prepared within 3 days. Because if
3
you
days,
recall,
okay.
when you did your real estate class, you cannot hold a deposit for more than 72 hours. So the trick here is that if the lease is done and signed within 72 hours, it's no longer a deposit. It is now considered earned commission. So you can bypass having the money go to the title company and deposit it directly into the brokerage commission account.
Got it.
Okay. That would
Mhm.
save you a step, because in the other way that it's done, if you collect the full 2,000, you have to put New World Title, because now you're holding escrow, because you're holding the commission for the other broker, the listing
Right.
broker, because he's
Right.
making half a month too. So in that case, you have to take it over to New World Title. New World Title will take that deposit. If your move-in date is 5/1, you have to go to New World Title right around 4/25, 4/26, 4/27, 4 days before, with a form that needs to be filled out to process those commissions so that New World Title can make a check out to Lifestyle International Realty, another one to the other broker's office, which let's assume it's Kai's. And then you would take that check with you to turn over the property on 5/1. Your client would be bringing money orders for the balance. So let's say the move-in amount is 6 months. You collected $2,000. Your client needs to bring a money orders in the amount of $4,000 made out to the landlord, because that's what the landlord's getting. That's the balance. The landlord pays the commission. You follow me? So you'd be, and in the event that you only collected 1,000, then your tenant would be bringing $4,000 made out to the landlord, I'm sorry, and the other $1,000 made out to Kai's. Now, I always say money order for move-in. Make sure that you always do money orders on the move-in, and I'm going to tell you why. A cashier's check can be canceled. You can put a stop payment on it. A personal check, you can put a stop payment on it. A money order, you cannot. It's cash. So the moment it's given to them, they can turn it into cash and no one can stop it. It's a travesty if your client moves in and you take and you turn over cashier's checks and they cancel those cashier's checks. Now the landlord has to evict them for non-payment. They're already in the property. So to avoid that, to make sure that you at least have those 3 months held already, always do money orders on the move-in.
Hey, Rick, in the chat,
Thank you.
uploaded the revision on Form Simplicity, the CL8 version. So
Okay,
if you guys look on the chats, you can download that PDF.
perfect. All right, is there anyone else that has any questions regarding the deposit or anything else on this form?
Rick, I'm sorry. Regarding the deposit. So you said in the beginning, the month is 2,000, for example. We collect that 2,000 that first month, or we only collect that 1,000 of that commission?
No, you have two options. See, I didn't want to confuse anybody. I
Yeah.
wanted to teach you, the easiest route of doing it.
Yeah,
But-
that was the whole 3 days, like for.
Right. I wanted to teach you the easy route, but what normally is done, what people normally do is they'll collect the whole month's rent. They'll put 2,000, they'll put New World Title. Now they deposit that check with New World Title. They drive over to the New World. They give it to New World. New World makes a deposit and gives you an escrow letter. Now, the day you're turning over the property, a few days before, you go back to New World, and New World has to write the checks out. They have to write a check out to Lifestyle International Realty for your side of the commission, and another one out for Kai's. I'm assuming that the landlord was working for landlord's agents from Kai's, because you have to take that check to you at closing. Those can be checks, and the balance of that would be brought from the tenant
Okay, with the money orders.
with the money orders. Exactly.
And how many bank statements do you usually ask for?
I usually try, if they get paid weekly or bi-weekly, they should be at least 2 deposits. So 1 month bank statement that shows that the deposits are going into their account is just fine. And sometimes it's overkill, but I usually like showing the check stub with the deposit so they can see that the money's going into an account,
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Martin.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, sorry for this dumb question, but if I understood this correctly, if we collected $2,000, that's the first month rent. We send it over to New World. Then over in line 5, we only need to collect 2 more months, right?
No, in line 5, first of all, in line 5 on that, tenant will pay the sum of, you don't put anything. You're gonna put it down at the bottom. The listing is usually gonna tell you what they want. They may say first month and 2 months security. They may say first month, last month, and 1 security. So you have to list it the way they want it. Let's just assume that the listing said they want first month, last month, and 1 month security. So under first month, you're gonna put $2,000. Under last month, you're going to put $2,000, and under security deposit, you're going to put $2,000. You're putting the 6,000 because that money needs to be accounted for, because it's coming from the tenant. The fact that the landlord's paying you out of the proceeds means nothing. The deposit is still going to be on record that he's holding it, regardless of whether he paid it to you. It's an expense that he has for renting. So at the move out, when the client moves out, he still owes him for the security deposit, and he can still live out his last month. Just because the landlord paid you doesn't mean the tenant loses that. It still needs to be accounted for, because the tenant is paying that. The tenant's paying what the landlord is requesting, and the landlord is the one that's paying commissions from his proceeds.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Hi, Rick, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, yes. So in the easy route, if I chose to only collect half of the first month's rent as my commission, but the listing agent wanted to get an aggressive offer with an escrow letter, what would be my next move in that scenario?
Well, if the agent comes back and said, "Hey, I want you to at least have $2,000," then you say, "Okay, I'll change it to 2,000." You change the deposit holder to New World Title, and you run with it with 1 month. They're never going to request more than a month. But sometimes agents don't realize that, and I'll explain it to the agent. Hey, listen, the reason I put $1,000 is because that's my side of the commission. My client's going to bring you a money order for your commission when we turn over keys. And I never have any resistance. They usually say, yeah, that's no problem. It's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Anybody else? No? All right, you all should be writing contract to leases at will at this point, and I should see the offers coming in. So
Yeah.
good luck, you guys.
Actually,
I got a
Rick,
question.
I have a property that is going to be listed soon.
Mhm.
So I need to do that. Should
The
we
listing?
collect- Yeah,
All right, if the listing is a totally different thing. You just got to do a rental, a listing for lease, which is not that it's not a difficult thing. Diana, I've been very busy, but I should start. I should do a class for that. So let me talk to Litsa here and see what day I could squeeze in, so we can do that listing class. So that way everyone can learn on that one as well. All right.
all right.
Okay.
And I also please ask kindly to be added to the WhatsApp to lifestyle.
Okay, I'll tell Yadi to make sure she adds you over to the lifestyle chat. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody, you guys
question.
have a good night.
Thank you.
All
Oh,
right.
I had one more question.
Thank you
Oh,
so
go
much.
ahead. Who's got a question? Wait, we got a question.
Oops.
Julie,
Hey,
it's
Julie.
Julie. Hey, I was gonna ask, can you do more than one contract to lease? Like on multiple rentals with the same tenant? Or
Yeah,
the same prospective tenant?
you mean you want to send out multiple offers to see if you land one rather than waiting for one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I guess you can, but when I send the offer, I would always disclose that. And I would tell,
Okay.
the agent, hey, listen, in light of the current market conditions, I've sent out multiple contract to leases. So my client's going to take the first one that accepts. I would disclose it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. You're welcome.
All
Anyone
right,
else?
so when do you think is the class for listing? Because
I'll talk to Yadi, see if we can squeeze it in next week, and I'll do it. It won't be long to do. Yeah. All right.
All right,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
All righty. All
Thank
right,
you.
everybody.
All right, thanks, Rick.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.